Tolland-Granville School District. The incidents in the Southwick schools involved racist abuse, including an online slave auction that offered black students for sale. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Robert Half research indicates 9 out of 10 hiring managers are having difficulty hiring. Robert Half is here to help. Their recruiting professionals use proprietary AI to connect businesses with highly skilled talent. At Robert Half, they know talent. Visit roberthalf.com today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Impressive game for the Lakers Monday night against Oklahoma City. They beat OKC by 12. The Lakers were hot from three-point range. They made 18 of 25. D'Angelo Russell led the Lakers with 26 points. He had 5 of the Lakers' 18 threes. The Lakers are 10-4 in their last 14 games. They're 1 game behind Dallas for the 8th and final playoff spot in the Western Conference. Frustrating loss for the Clippers last night in Milwaukee. They lost by 7. Milwaukee played without 2 starters because of injuries. All-star Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton. Damian Lillard stepped up with a game-high 41. Bobby Portis had 28 off the bench. Clippers guard Russell Westbrook has surgery Monday on his fractured left hand. The Clippers medical staff is hopeful that Westbrook will be back in April before the start of the Western Conference playoffs. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Climate is king.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that caring for the community means caring about the climate. You might have heard that we announced a pretty bold 12-month, $2 million campaign to do 4 things. Increase climate literacy, turn up the volume on communities of color in the climate conversation, connect everyday people with the resources they need to survive and thrive, and highlight frontline climate justice crusaders of color throughout this year. KBLA Talk 1580 will be bringing you insightful interviews on all of our shows to help raise your climate IQ. Each quarter this year, we will also be hosting free climate events in various communities throughout the city with food, fun, and forward-thinking conversations. Thanks to partners like LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, the Sierra Club, the California Community Foundation, the California Endowment, AQMD, MWD, and more. You'll also be hearing more about a couple of national town halls broadcasting live from Los Angeles, to which you will be invited. And we'll be rolling out a robust social media campaign on all our platforms, as well as an outdoor media campaign, all designed to educate, enlighten, and empower you in our fight for climate justice.
We want cleaner air.
Caring about the community means caring about the climate. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that we really can change the world if we care enough. 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 If we care enough.
It's your thing. Do what you wanna do. I can't tell you who to sock it to. It's your thing.
I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm delighted to have you hanging out with us today. I'm rushing to get to this caller because he's on the campaign trail and honored me by taking the time to call into this program today. So I got about 10 minutes with him. I'm pleased to welcome U.S. Congressman Adam Schiff. You know him as the guy who led the House impeachment hearings against Donald Trump. And here he is now, the front runner for the U.S. Senate seat here in the state of California to take the seat that was once held by Dianne Feinstein. Congressman Schiff, how are you, sir?
Good, Tavis. How are you?
Man, if I complained I'd be an ingrate, I am doing well, and I'm delighted to have you on the program. They make the most of our time. Let me start by asking, it is the big day. I was just talking to Erica Smith in the LA Times. They call it Super Tuesday. Super Tuesday doesn't feel as super as it used to, in part because, in many respects, there are foregone conclusions in some races. Certainly, we know that Biden and Trump are the presumptive nominees of their party. And I'm worried as to whether or not this rematch that nobody wants may depress down ballot turnout. At the moment, the numbers I'm looking at suggest there's low turnout so far. All that said, how are you feeling today about your race, sir?
You know, I'm feeling great about my race. We just went out, my wife and I voted today, and you're right, the polling place looked, at least at the moment we were there, not very crowded, which is worrying. Probably not that surprising because, as you say, the presidential races, at least in the primaries, are not really contested. And Tavis, I just can't wrap my head around the fact that a former president who's been indicted on 91 felony counts and impeached twice and led a incited a violent attack on our Capitol is headed towards the nomination of one of America's two great political parties. But we are where we are.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I feel very good about my campaign. I think we've built the largest grassroots campaign for Senate in California history, and really proud of that.
You mentioned Trump first, so that raises two questions for me right quick. Number one, your read on the fact that the Supreme Court, as I expected, has made clear he will be on ballots in all 50 states.
From the oral argument, that was my expectation too, but I think it's the wrong decision. Constitution is very clear. If you take an oath to uphold the Constitution and then you violate that oath by engaging in a rebellion or insurrection against the Constitution, you're disqualified. And this majority, this reactionary majority on the court, went even further than it needed to by essentially saying that unless Congress specifically authorizes a way to remove somebody like that, there's nothing that could be done about a president who essentially tries to cling to power after losing. And that's going to be an open invitation to others in the future to try to stay in power when the voters vote them out.
But it was a unanimous decision, though.
It was unanimous in deciding that these state lawsuits wouldn't go forward, but it was not unanimous in the breadth of the ruling. And I think the justices who dissented, pointed out the hypocrisy. John Roberts in the Dobbs decision saying basically, if you don't have to decide something and you go ahead and decide it anyway, then you're making yourself into super legislature. And that's what the court did here by going beyond just the narrow issue there, which was whether state secretaries could disqualify a candidate for engaging in insurrection, to saying that the only way that a constitutional provision applies is if a deeply divided Congress can nevertheless pass something this consequential either before or after an election, which is, of course, an impossibility.
Yeah. It won't surprise you to know that we have had, of course, your opponents on this program and on this station in this campaign. And there are at least two critiques of you I've heard repeatedly from them and from others. I want to just get your take on it. I want to hear directly from Adam Schiff's mouth how he responds to these two critiques. The first is that in this race, speaking of Donald Trump for the U.S. Senate here in California, that you've been the front runner of basically since the very beginning, that you've essentially run against Trump. You haven't run against these opponents. You haven't really talked about the issues for Californians, but you've run this campaign against Trump, born of your leading the House impeachment hearings, and that's worked effectively for you, but you've really run against Trump. That's been your strategy. Your thoughts?
That's a very weird argument to make because, of course, I think my ads, and I have to go back and look at them, I don't think anything mentioned Trump. My ads are focused on my record of leadership, my record of getting things done and delivering for California. And what I think is most important is Californians are looking for somebody who can, work with others to get the job done, who can bring down the cost of housing and bring down the cost of child care, that can help people access health care and make sure that access is equitable. I've got a long record of doing these things, of writing California's Patient Bill of Rights, of taking on polluters, taking on a corrupt president, yes, but that has not been the centerpiece of our campaign, so that's kind of a strange criticism.
And for those who said you have, gamed the ballot, as it were, by using your $32 million to make Steve Garvey your opponent, your response to that?
Well, we have a jungle primary, so we're all on the same ballot. It's not like you have a separate ballot for Democrats and a separate one for Republicans. And Steve Garvey is, and has been ever since he got into this race, pretty much in second place. And he's been attacking me every week on Fox, and I'm certainly not going to ignore him. I think my Democratic colleagues would have much more to howl about if I was attacking them, which I haven't been. And so, I have been distinguishing my record from my Democratic colleagues on issues of leadership and who's gotten more things done and who can get more things done in the Senate for California. But I haven't shied away from my policy differences with Steve Garvey, and I'm certainly not going to.
I close with this. I know your schedule is tight. My extra question is, what is the best reason or reasons to vote for Adam Schiff today in this California Democratic primary, in the California primary, rather?
Because I've got the best record of delivering for California, bringing millions back to this state to build housing, of writing California's Patient Bill of Rights, of writing legislation to reduce class sizes in our schools, and of fighting for better unemployment compensation during the pandemic. It's a record of getting things done. And you've basically got two kinds of people in Congress. You got the talkers and you got the doers. And Dianne Feinstein was a doer. She got things done. And that's what I've been doing. That's what I want to do in the Senate. And I'll be so proud to represent all your listeners.
Representative Schiff, as always, an honor to have you on this program. You always respond when I call you, and you did again today on Election Day, which I'm extremely grateful for. So thank you for your time. All the best today, sir, and I'll be talking to you down the road.
Look forward to it. You take care now.
Take care, my friend. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
This is Los Angeles County Supervisor Holly Mitchell, and today I'd like to talk to you about a leader who stands out in the race for Los Angeles Unified School District Board District 1, Charlotte Kendi Newbill. Charlotte's dedication to our schools isn't just professional, it's personal. As a lifelong educator and a mother, she knows the stakes. With her at the helm, we can look forward to reduced class sizes, safer schools, and innovative programs that truly meet the needs of all our students. Charlotte Kendi Newbill has the experience. Please join me in supporting Charlotte. Let's make sure our children's education is in the hands of someone who truly cares. Vote Charlotte Kendi Newbill for LAUSD Board District 1. Our kids deserve the best.
Paid for by Helping Empowered Individuals Reach Success Political Action Committee. This advertisement was not authorized or paid for by a candidate for this office or a committee controlled by a candidate for this office.
So you just used bug spray in your home. Now what? Well, between the waiting and waiting for things to dry up and keeping your family away from the mess, it hits you. You could have used Zevo. Unlike other bug sprays that stick around, Zevo goes from kill to clean in seconds. Plus, it's safe for use around people and pets when used as directed. Zevo, people-friendly, bug-deadly.
It's game day at Jim's house, and the spread is impressive.
Mike's already done some damage with the hot wings, and now he's dropping back and going deep for another slice of pizza.
I sure hope he brought the Pepto.
Mike knows the Pepto-Bismol provides fast 5-symptom relief from unexpected stomach upsets. He's no rookie.
The way he's throwing back those nachos, he's the GOAT.
Be ready for game day with Pepto-Bismol.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
We thank U.S. Congressman Adam Schiff, the man who led the House impeachment of Donald Trump, for coming on as our guest. At the top of this hour on Super Tuesday, 16 states all across the country engaged right now in primaries or caucuses in this presidential election year. As I said earlier, the turnout at the moment seems to be a little bit low. And my great concern in this primary season is also my great concern come November, and that is whether or not the fact that we have a rematch this year, presumably between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, that nobody wants. Nobody wants to see this fight, man. I'm a pugilist. I box as a workout. I train as a boxer in my gym, and I love the sport. I love the sweet science. And one thing about boxing is nobody wants to see a rematch that nobody wants to see. Sometimes these guys demand a rematch because they lost, but ain't nobody trying to see that again. You got so thoroughly beat down the first time, ain't nobody trying to see that again. And so this is one of those matches that nobody really wants to see again, a rematch. But My concern is that whether or not all across the country we will see depressed turnout because nobody is concerned about what's at the top of the ticket. Usually in the presidential election year, the turnout goes way up because people are excited about what's at the top of the ticket. Not this time around, and so we shall see. But my prediction is that this may be one of the lowest turnouts ever for a presidential race. That's my sense. I'd like to be wrong about that, but we shall see come November. But we thank Adam Schiff for calling in from the campaign trail on Election Day today regarding his campaign for the Senate seat in California. Now, as promised, our friend Dr. Hakeem Oluseyi, an astrophysicist who I'm delighted to have back on this program. As I said earlier, you don't have a bunch of black astrophysicists laying around. And so when you get a chance to talk to one, you take the opportunity, and I'm always delighted to be in dialogue with Dr. Hakeem Oluseyi, who I welcome right now back to Tavis Smiley. Hey, Doc, how are you, sir?
I am wonderful, sir. Thank you for having me back. It's always an honor.
Man, it's an honor to have you on this program. And I want to put up on you, and I hope you won't be mad at me for this, but I so loved your book. And
wonderful.
I love it. It's one of my favorites. It's on my shelf. I talk about it all the time and recommend it to people because your backstory is so amazing. And I love the story of how you made your way literally from the streets to the stars. And the backstory of your life, of what you were able to overcome and to endure to become a black astrophysicist, which ain't easy to begin with. But then when you consider all the hurdles that you had to jump over to get to be a black astrophysicist, it's a big deal. We're no longer in Black History Month. Of course, on this program, I do Black History every day, as you well know. And I just wonder if I can just stand down for a few minutes, take your time. You know, we got an hour here. And just have you share with the audience, as you would giving a lecture, just a bit about your backstory so they can appreciate, and I can appreciate all over again how you became an astrophysicist. So just tell me some of the backstory of Hakeem Oluseyi.
All right. So the first thing you said is from the streets. So I'll start there. I'm Gen X. So I was a child of the 70s. I graduated high school in 1985. And, if you look at the way people talk about generations now, Gen X was the generation where the parents were basically out. And so that was kind of the case for my sister and me. My parents divorced when I was 4 years old. We were in New Orleans. And prior to that, we had a 2-parent household. All right. After that, single mom, and we moved every year, and we moved through the toughest neighborhoods in the South Central Los Angeles, Houston 3rd Ward, Houston South Park, New Orleans 9th Ward, New Orleans East. And my cousins, right, when I moved to the West, my cousins were, as I say, all part of a new social club called the Crips.
A new social club, yeah.
Right. So this was like 1971, right? And, my cousins were rough. And they, they're all older than me, 3 brothers older than me. I was the 4th male. And they started robbing banks. And, the 2 oldest ended up going to prison. And my mother, she did, she had me in church every Sunday. She sent me to school. So on the one hand, I was this bookish kid, this nerd. But the reality of my family and my community was, gang life. It was tough, right? So ultimately, my mother reunited me with my dad right before I turned 9 years old. Turned out my dad was a before his time entrepreneur, right? He that business that's now legal in many states wasn't legal at the time. All right. So my dad incorporated me into his business when I was 9 years old. And, that meant cleaning, packaging, and when no one else was home but me, answering the door and performing the transactions. And ultimately, my older sister, I was supposed to be at his house this day. Some guys came to rob the house and ended up shooting my older sister, Andrea, which ultimately led to her being unable to have children naturally, though she did adopt several children. And so, what ends up occurring to me, ultimately my mom sees the handwriting on the wall and she moves me to rural Mississippi, Clark County, Mississippi. And, we literally lived in a dirt road off a dirt road off a dirt road, right? We hunted, farmed, fish. I grew up eating squirrels, possums, raccoons, rabbits, you name it, right? Slopping the hogs, the whole, all of that. So when I got to Mississippi, I was as protected as I'd ever been in my life, right? But it was too late because I was a kid in those hoods by myself. I learned those valuable lessons. It's better for me to intimidate you before you intimidate me. It's better for me to punch you in the face before you punch me in the face, right? So by the time I'm 13, I'm like going for bad, as we used to say back then, right? So, inside, I was a scared little nerd. But on the outside, I had to be a tough guy, right? So by the time I'm 14, I have my own business. By the time I'm 16, I'm carrying a pistol, right? For protection. I'm going out to the pool halls, drinking TJ Swan at 13 years old, right? I'm out in the street, as they say, from the age of 13. And ultimately what happens to me is I get recruited into the U.S. Navy. I go there. I learn algebra. I'm kicked out of the Navy for having atopic dermatitis. I come back to Mississippi, and my older friends who had attended Tougaloo College, suggested to me that I go to Tougaloo. I go there, pledge Kappa, fall 87.
Yo-yo.
Yo-yo, right? And, I realized how undereducated I was when I got there, because even though it's a historically black college, all schools aren't equal. All school systems aren't equal. And where I had been educated was not one of the best in the state. So I had serious academic difficulties. I dropped out. I became, my dad's business shifted from marijuana to cocaine, and he found himself addicted. My older brother got addicted. My roommate got addicted. All right. And I drop out of college. And what gets me back into college is I'm working, the year is 1988. I'm 21 years old. I'm working as a janitor at a nearby hotel. And when I would go to work, the first thing I would do is I would go walk through the halls to see if I could find where people left their room service trays outside their door, and I would go there and eat their leftovers, right? And then, I'm making $4 an hour, which, previously I worked at $3.35 an hour, right? So what I do is I apply to move up. A bellhop got fired. I applied for the bellhop job, and, they're like, dude, you're not front door material, right? And I think to myself, I can't go from bellhop. I can't go from janitor to bellhop. I'm going back to college. So I re-enroll at Tougaloo, and as soon as I do, speaking of black folks, the sister from MIT who's about to complete her PhD, her name is Cynthia McIntyre, she shows up in Jackson, Mississippi, recruiting black physics students to a new conference that she had created called the National Conference of Black Physics Students. And I went there. I learned that there was this thing called physics as a career. I learned what the good schools were and who the good mentors were. And by some miracle, I find myself accepted into the PhD program at Stanford University in physics. And they happen to, I'm not going to even get into the culture shock. I've been living in a completely segregated Mississippi world up until this time, and racially segregated. And I get to Stanford, and I discover this new thing called classism. I mean, if you were a white dude from the deep South with a big, deep Southern accent, you weren't cool. You weren't considered intelligent. And so let alone me coming in there. Luckily, again, the nukes came to the rescue. I had a instant brotherhood in which to engage and not feel so 100% on my own.
Right.
And then the second thing is that in all of the university's technical schools, there were 6 of them, right? Physics, math, biology, chemistry, those, right? There was 2 black professors total. One of them happened to be a physicist who did astrophysics, the late, great Dr. Arthur Burt from Cuthbert Walker, ABC Walker, and he became my mentor. And honestly, when I met the man, when I arrived at Stanford, first of all, no one could understand me when I spoke, right? I had a sort of I call it ghetto country accent. And Art was the exact opposite. At the time, he was what I would call whitewashed, right?
Right.
And when I say at the time, another way of saying that is in my ignorance.
Yeah.
Right? Because there are a few people I found were more dedicated to the cause of helping black scholars to advance in their careers, right? And so Stanford had graduated 30 black PhDs in physics. and he was a big reason why. And I was his last student because right at the end of my graduate school, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and passed away in 2001. But I had the benefit of him training me not just to be a scholar, but also to be a gentleman, and also how to fight the good fight the right way. Right. And had I not known that, I wouldn't be here today, because at every step of my young career, there was always an antagonist attempting to, get me fired, get me kicked out of graduate school, something along those lines. And, knowing how to respond with a cool head and using the rules to my advantage, I end up surviving all of those and just continue to move up until I am where I am today. So I hope that was followable for everyone listening.
You did that thing. You did that thing beautifully, and you see, I did not want to interrupt at all, because every time I am in his presence, every time I talk to him, I delight in hearing that story all over again. My grandmother, we call her Big Mama. As you know, we're not just Kappas together. I'm also from Mississippi, born in Mississippi. That's right. Or as I prefer to say, M-I, crooked letter I, crooked letter I, humpback I. And so I revel every time in asking him to just share that story. I know he probably gets tired of me asking that question, but my Big Mama, I used to lay around on the floor and ask her to tell me stories. He said, "Tavis, I done told you that story, boy, 25 times. I said, "Big Mama, just tell me one more time. Tell me one more time." I used to love to hear my Big Mama tell me stories. Yeah, man, I was curious. I used to love to hear those stories. And with you, I love hearing your story, because there's just so much to unpack, which I'll do when we come forward. But it just goes to show what you can do when you are focused, when you are determined, when you apply yourself, when you are resilient. No excuses, just no excuses. It can be done.
And you got to ask for help.
Ask for help. There you go.
Ask for help and accept help.
That's right. No, I couldn't have said it better. And so every time I'm around this brother, or he's on this program, I always just want to take a few minutes to let him give his backstory before I come to the present and the work he's doing today as an astrophysicist. We'll talk about that. But before I go any further, the book that tells this whole story, and believe me, that's just the top line. There's a whole lot more to this backstory that he didn't have time to get into. But the book about his life is called A Quantum Life, My Unlikely Journey from the Street to the Stars, by Hakeem Oluseyi. That's spelled Oluseyi. But you can find it by the book title, A Quantum Life, My Unlikely Journey from the Street to the Stars. That's the book that tells all of the story that you've heard now, and a great deal more about his journey, which has been an amazing one. And so we celebrate not just the fact that he's an accomplished black astrophysicist, but we celebrate the journey and all those who helped him along the way. And I always, again, want to just take a moment to just let him share with you that backstory. So for those who need some motivation today, there you have it. I can't do much better than that, to motivate you to believe and to know that whatever God has for you is for you. And as long as you apply yourself, you can make it happen. Now, we'll talk about what he's doing now as a black astrophysicist when we come forward with Dr. Hakeem Oluseyi on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant gravenoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. An effort to charge Colorado women with a crime if they get an abortion isn't going anywhere. It was voted down in a House committee right after being introduced yesterday. The Republican-sponsored bill aimed to classify an embryo or fetus as a person. It was nearly identical to the one that also failed last year. A school in eastern Washington state is coming under fire for encouraging students to dress up as African-American slaves. The Spokesman Review reports Wilson Elementary School in Spokane made the suggestion Friday in a flyer highlighting an upcoming jazz music performance. The flyer invites families to, quote, take a trip from today way back to the times of slavery in America, and goes on to suggest that students dress up as slaves and hobos for the concert. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Robert Half research indicates 9 out of 10 hiring managers are having difficulty hiring. Robert Half is here to help. Their recruiting professionals use proprietary AI to connect businesses with highly skilled talent. At Robert Half, they know talent. Visit roberthalf.com today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Impressive game for the Lakers Monday night against Oklahoma City. They beat OKC by 12. The Lakers were hot from three-point range. They made 18 to 25. D'Angelo Russell led the Lakers with 26 points. He had 5 of the Lakers' 18 threes. The Lakers are 10-4 in their last 14 games. They're 1 game behind Dallas for the 8th and final playoff spot in the Western Conference. Frustrating loss for the Clippers last night in Milwaukee. They lost by 7. Milwaukee played without 2 starters because of injuries. All-star Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton. Damian Lillard stepped up with a game-high 41. Bobby Portis had 28 off the bench. Clippers guard Russell Westbrook has surgery Monday on his fractured left hand. The Clippers medical staff is hopeful that Westbrook will be back in April before the start of the Western Conference playoffs. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
We, the people, need change. I am Michelle Chambers, and I am running for state senate to deliver the change we need. More housing, higher wages for workers, fully funded public schools, and mental health services. Planned Parenthood, nurses, classroom teachers, and Democrats, labor unions all agree. Visit michelleforcalifornia.com to learn more. For real change, vote Michelle Chambers by March 5th. Ad paid for by Chambers for Senate 2024.
Tax Talk with Straight Talk.
You give and you give. This tax season, you get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data and a new Samsung Galaxy A15 for just $99. So you can give your janky phone to your kid. Yeah! Good talk.
Switch to Straight Talk for plans starting as low as $25 a line per month for 4 lines. Find us at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. For network management practices, visit StraightTalk.com. Device offer ends 4/14/24. In-store activation on single Silver Unlimited plan or higher required. Family plan discount with 4 lines all on the Silver Unlimited plan. Taxes and fees apply.
Eggs are a staple in our diets, and there's only one egg with more delicious farm fresh taste plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best. With more vitamins, including 6 times more vitamin D and 10 times more vitamin E, plus 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. Available in so many delicious varieties: classic, cage-free, and organic. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and our guest in this hour, Dr. Hakeem Olushehi, who is a brilliant African-American astrophysicist. Not a whole lot of those lying around, but I found one, and I wanted to bring him to you, as I do as often as I can. I love having him on this program. By the way, that book that I mentioned that tells the story of his journey from the street to the stars is called A Quantum Life: My Unlikely Journey from the Street to the Stars, A Quantum Life. And I wanted to mention that there is also an adapted book for young readers, and it's important that you understand that. There's a book for you adults to read, but there is a version of this book that's now been adapted for young readers, which I highly recommend, and I wanted to mention that as well for you parents out there who would love to get a book for your children. That they can read about his journey from the street to the stars and how he did it, and all the drama that he endured even as a kid, starting at the age of 9. And I want to go right there for a quick second, and then I want to go on to your work these days as an astrophysicist. And he's the backstory you just heard is an amazing story, and it leads to being the president of the National Society of Black Physicists. So he's had quite the journey in his life. We'll talk about that part in a moment. But you shared the story earlier about your father pulling you into his business at the age of 9. That started out in marijuana and eventually became cocaine. There are two questions that come to mind right quick. The first is, what say you to young people or about young people who, through no fault of their own, get pulled into stuff they ain't got no business being in, even by their parents, at the age of 9?
Right. Yeah. You know, it's normal to you when it's occurring like that in your life, right? That's your normal every day. And I think that, you know, there are these people that do what's called outreach, right? They show up from outside of your normal realm and they say, hey, let me tell you about something different. Let me tell you about college. You know, we would get taken to the black colleges, Alcorn State, Valley State, Jackson State every year for their high school day. So in a large way, those outreach people are the people that showed me different options in life, right? Like, one aspect is, you know, neither of my parents graduated high school, right? My older sister didn't graduate high school. So who was there to actually teach me? You know, like where I was from, I was called book smart, right? It was, people were always apologizing for me, right? Oh, he's book smart, right? If they had, when they say the kid was smart, this is a manual labor community, right? That meant that you did things on your own without having to be told, right? You did work, right? And then the other thing they would always say is, he don't want to work, right? It was a big insult, right? It was all about hardcore work ethic in that environment, right? So you don't know what you don't know when you're in that environment. Someone coming from the outside, that's why I have gone all around the world, all across Africa, all across the U.S., to do exactly for others what was done for me. Let me tell you about this. Let me tell you how cool it is. Let me show you that you too can understand it and do it. And let me empower you to show you a pathway to getting there if you choose to pursue this, right? Because that's really so heartbreaking to me because, I leave Mississippi and I go to Stanford University and two things popped into my mind. I looked at the people around me and I realized that they were way better educated than the folks where I come from, formal education. But my next thought was, but you're not intrinsically smarter and you're not harder working.
That part, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so it seemed to me to be a crime, an injustice in the world. And it seemed to me to be one that was not, only if everybody knew, like Maya Angelou say, right? When you know better, you do better, right? Only if everybody knew that you could do this too, right? Because you think it's not for you, you edit yourself out of it, right? And so there's so few people that are going into this stuff that the government actually pays you to do it, right? When you go to graduate school in physics, you get a salary. Your tuition is paid. Your your medical insurance is provided for, right? And the United States does that for you because we need people doing this, and everybody's scared of it.
So let me ask you. I'm glad you said that. You went right where I wanted to go. So let's just call a spade a spade. Let's just keep it real. Obviously, I don't like generalizations any more than you do. And you're a physicist, so you really understand why generalizations don't work. This is what you do. You're a scientist. So let me, having said that, give you a generalization nonetheless. Anyway, and the generalization is that black folk don't like, put another way, black folk are scared of science and math. Do you buy that we are scared of science and math? And if we are, why are we scared of science and math?
You know what? I'm going to give you the answer that nobody else is going to give you.
Keep it real.
But I'm keeping it real. And the answer is yes, we are scared of science and math. But here's the other part you never hear anybody else say. You know who else scared of science and math? White folks, Asian folks, Latin folks, right? Everybody is scared of science and math.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Go to any university and see what percentage of the students are in science and math. Okay, right?
Yeah.
All of this STEM, we've been pushing for the last 25, 30 years.
Yep.
Only 18% of college students graduate with STEM degrees. Right? We're pushing it hard. We're paying for it, but still nobody's doing it. Let me tell you the 3 questions that students ask, the average student, when they go to college.
Okay.
And they have to choose their major. They ask themselves, what do I enjoy? What can I make money doing? And what has the least amount of math?
Yeah.
Right? That's how it is. And so that's why it's such, so it's not anything special about us. What's special about us is the following. There's only 2 ways that I find that a person is well educated in math by the time they graduate high school.
Yeah.
And that is, number 1, it's in your house.
Right.
Number 2, you got lucky. If you just happen to be interested in it yourself and self-taught, or you just happen to go to one of the rare schools where you get it, right? So I'll give it a more down-to-earth example. I have a son, and he's 18 now. He's a freshman in college. But, I started teaching him very young, at the age of 3. So my mom tells me when he's like 5 or something, I think he's smarter than you. To which I responded, no, he ain't. His daddy got a PhD in physics.
Yeah.
Right? Right? I could not. My father, it was impossible for my mom.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. 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 Right in the middle of a good story. Miles is going to get him back on the line. I don't know what happened, but it's live radio, and this happens every now and then. In the middle of a great story, you lose a line. We're going to get him back on the line. His name is Dr. Hakeem Oluseyi, and Dr. Oluseyi is back. Finish that story, man. It was good and good. You got cut off at the wrong time. Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying, it was impossible for my father and my mother to do for me what I was able to do for my son, right? My son completed Algebra 1 when he was 7, Algebra 2 and Calculus when he was 9. And so we all are born with the ability, and some, more than others, right? It's a variation. But if there's nobody in your house that knows this stuff or is interested in this stuff, there were cats around me who would, we would play these games that were competitions of the mind, right? One I like to always talk about, my friend Chris Morgan. We got there into high school. I'm like, what are you going to do after high school? Go to college or the military? And he was like, neither. And I'm like, what? I don't understand, right?
Yeah.
But he just wasn't interested, right? Yeah. It doesn't make him a bad guy. It doesn't make him less or anything like that. It just didn't interest him. But had he been interested and applied himself, Chris could be one of the greatest scientists in the world, right? That brother was brilliant.
So
it is brilliant.
So let me push back in this way. When you say we're scared of science and math, I take your point and I get that. But I want to bring this thing back to your story and the story of a bunch of other people that I know and you know and every listener knows.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that we're scared of science and math and not good at it if we in the drug game. You got to know grams. Don't get me started. You were doing this at 9.
There's math and there's math.
Okay,
there's math and there's math.
Well,
let me tell you the mistake you're making.
Tell me the mistake I'm making. Tell me the mistake I'm making.
Everybody's good at number math.
Okay.
Right? So you can be good at numbers, but math ain't about numbers.
Okay.
Right? Think about your favorite physics equations. E equals MC squared. How many numbers are in that? Not many. Don't let me show you the equations of electricity and magnetism. So you always hear a lot of people say also, oh, I was great about math until they got rid of the numbers. Right? So, number math ain't math.
Okay.
Right? And by the way, I'm saying ain't and speaking ebonically because that's how I talk. That's
I'm
how
with you.
I'm
the same
not
way.
a measure of my intelligence,
no,
right?
We the same way.
Yeah, everybody, there's nothing special about us in that way. It's not, the ability to reason. What I mean by in that way is having this issue with math. Every race has it. Yeah. Every class has it. The only people who don't have it are the people who are born with it in their house.
Yep. No, I get it.
Right? Like when when I got to Stanford, there was nobody there that could skin a squirrel like me.
Yeah.
Right? My folks taught me what they had to give me, and I mastered it. Right?
Yeah.
So when I was in the Navy, when I was at Tougaloo, I was both the barber and the auto mechanic. Right?
Yeah.
They gave me a lot of skills, but it turns out that none of the skills that they gave me were useful in physics. Well, they were useful in the physics laboratory, but they weren't useful in the physics class.
No, I get it. All you know is all you know. I'm still laughing at that line. I can tell you this. Nobody at Stanford could skin a squirrel like I could. I digress. Our guest is Dr. Hakeem Oluseyi. More with him when we come forward. I love this guy. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Politics has become so messy lately, it's hard to find a reason to be hopeful. Hi, my name is Shakira. I'd like to tell you why Adam Schiff gives me hope. My parents raised me to take my right to vote seriously, so I try to stay on top of what's going on. I saw Adam Schiff lead the impeachment and insurrection hearings. He seemed like someone I could believe in. Then I actually met him at the MLK parade in South Central LA this year. Adam listened. He cared. I got to see who he is. He understands the struggle we have with the cost of living, all the parents working extra shifts and taking second jobs to get by. He gets a threat to our democracy and our freedoms. Adam Schiff knows how tough things really are for a lot of us, and I believe he's going to do something about it. It gives me hope, but hope isn't enough. We need to vote for Adam Schiff for Senate.
I'm Adam Schiff, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Schiff for Senate.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and Affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
This is Dr. Hakeem Oluseyi on Tavis Smiley. His book is called A Quantum Life, My Unlikely Journey from the Street to the Stars, now an adapted version for readers. His sister adopted kids, so he told that story earlier, but this book has now been adapted, adapted for young readers, and I highly recommend it. Once again, A Quantum Life, My Unlikely Journey from the Street to the Stars for you adults, and an adapted version for young readers. I'm watching my time getting away from me, man. I could talk to you for hours. I always love our dialogues, Doc. So tell me about the National Society of Black Physicists, broadly speaking, and then tell me what you're working on these days as an astrophysicist.
Yeah, so the National Society of Black Physicists is the largest organization of professional black physicists in the country. And we also have a long history of supporting work in Africa. So we were central in founding the African Astronomical Society, of which I was the first interim founding president, the African Physical Society. And we also have worked a lot with the National Society of Hispanic Physicists, and we have a joint conference coming up next year. Mm-hmm. So I just stepped down as president on March 1st. I still serve on the executive board as the past president. And for my part, I now have, projects in a variety of areas. And I'm going to talk to you offline soon, sir, because I need some advice.
Okay.
But, I have the media career. Mm-hmm. I do a lot of work with Nova, PBS, Science Channel.
Sure.
I have the show on Netflix. I have a project with Nat Geo right now. Mm-hmm. I've just started a new podcast with Roddenberry Entertainment called Does It Fly? We're right now just recording and banking episodes. We haven't yet launched. Mm-hmm. That'll come in a couple of months. And on the research side, I'm associated with a satellite called IMAP, which stands for Interstellar Mapping and Acceleration Probe. So my research work with Dr. Art Walker as a graduate student was focused on the sun. And if you ever look at those pictures of the sun with the plasma loops, it looks like it's on fire. Mm-hmm. Art's team, we were the first to do that, right? Led by Art Walker. Mm. Now this new mission is about the heliosphere. It's where the sun's magnetic bubble interfaces with the galactic environment. And, life on Earth is only possible because we live under these two magnetic bubbles, the Earth's magnetosphere and the sun's what we call heliosphere. And so we need to understand them and how they evolve and their dynamic, right? You know that the Earth's poles, North Pole and South Pole, can switch, which has the effect of weakening our magnetic field temporarily, which can let radiation in, which could lead to higher rates of cancer. Well, the same thing is true of the sun. It changes on these dynamic time scales. Mm-hmm. So we need to understand all of this. And I'm also a part of a just accepted satellite that's based here at George Mason University, where I have a visiting scientist appointment, visiting professor. I'm also a visiting professor at Princeton with the IMAP satellites. So that's mostly what I do. I also do work, a sort of science diplomacy internationally. So about a year ago, I went to Hong Kong for the Department of State. I was in Nairobi, Kenya with the amazing Dr. Mae Jemison, first Black woman in space.
Sure.
And, I work with a group in Kenya, an amazing woman named Susan Marabana and her husband, Chu, and also, folks down in South Africa. So I'm at it every day.
I'm just laughing because Hong Kong and Kenya and South Africa, particularly on the part of your government, being asked to do this by the State Department, that's a long way from New Orleans. That's a long way from Mississippi. You have lived a blessed life, and you are blessing others, and I celebrate that. When we come forward in our remaining moments with Dr. Hakeem Oluseyi, I want to get the insight on this new podcast. If you've enjoyed him on this program, then surely you're going to enjoy his own podcast. It's called Does It Fly? I want more about that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Hey, what are you doing up on the step stool?
About to clean these light fixtures. The whole family's coming over, and if there's even a speck of dust in the house, my abuela will find it.
Here, I got a Swiffer duster to help with that.
A Swiffer what?
A Swiffer duster. It has this cool extendable handle that reaches 6 feet to get high and low, with fluffy dusters that easily trap and lock dust.
So, no more step stool?
No more step stool.
Easily trap and lock dust from hard-to-reach places with the Swiffer duster. Love it or your money back.
Don't shave with that, son. You'll get razor bumps.
Nah, Pops. I'm good with Gillette's Skin Guard. How long you been growing that beard anyway? You know Mama hates it.
Yeah, had it since my last wet shave in 77. Got ingrown so bad, looked like I was growing a patch of new noses.
That's why I use the Gillette Skin Guard razor, face scrub, shave gel, and moisturize, so I don't have to worry about new razor bumps or shaving irritation.
Gillette Skin Guard, huh? Your mama's gonna love this one.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Dr. Oluseyi, I got about 2 minutes left. Lunell just walked in the studio. I got her for the full hour in a moment, so I got to get ready. This has been a serious conversation. Now I'm about to laugh for a whole hour when she grabs the microphone. She just got off how many cities you did with how many cities you and Kat did?
Many. Many.
So stand by for Lunell in just a second. But Dr. Oluseyi, you mentioned this new podcast. Yes, it's called Does It Fly? I cannot wait to hear you do your own podcast. Tell me about it, man.
Yeah. So what this is about is science fiction where science fiction meets science. Mm-hmm. So, it's again basically like welcome to the nerd party, right? So what we do is I have a co-host. She is Marvel's red carpet host. Her name is Tamara Krinsky. And we look at different technologies in science fiction, like, say, the transporter in Star Trek or the neuralizer in Men in Black. And I talk about if we could really make that. What's the scientific basis, and can we really make that in the real world today or at some point in the future, right? And, whenever you have a chat with me, I go down story lane and I take all these divergences, whatever pops in my head. So it's, it's not a dry presentation of the information. It's really fun.
It sounds like fun. And if you're at the heart of it, I know it's going to be not just entertaining, but also empowering. So I celebrate the podcast that is to come called Does It Fly? I celebrate him for all that he has endured and accomplished, the work through the National Society of Black Physicists, his own work as an astrophysicist. I delight every time Hakeem Oluseyi honors me with a conversation.
I appreciate you, sir.
The book is called A Quantum Life, My Unlikely Journey from the Street to the Stars. There is now also an adapted edition of this book for young readers. Again, highly recommend both. I'm going to let you fly, Dr. Hakeem, to do what you got to do, and I'll talk to you soon, my friend. All the best to you.
Thank you. And hello, Miss Linnell. All right, take care.
Hey there. Hi.
Hey.
I love it. Lunell is in the building for the hour when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. And yesterday, the Republican-sponsored bill aimed to classify an embryo or fetus as a person. It was nearly identical to the one that